Hello, I am Zwizzle, and today I'm going to do a quick video on tier rankings of the classes on Wayfarer's Haven that are available right now at the current expansion, which is Dragons of Norrath. So we're going to be looking at these specific to Dragons of Norrath and how they stand right now on the server. This is going to be my opinion, obviously, based on how I've seen them, how I've played them in leveling, in groups, and in raid settings. So this is all around um, rankings for the picking your trio. So let's get to it. Right, the first one that we've got is a bard, and bard. First out, we're gonna go right to S tier. Bards can do everything. They can keep a raid alive. They can make things so much easier. They're really a jack of all trades. They've got a lot of tools in their toolbox. A raid is not complete without them. Groups are so much better with one. So they're going to go S tier right off the bat. Next up, we've got the Beast Lord. And as much as Beast Lords tell me that they're S tier, I can't quite put them there. I don't think they're make or break when it comes to a raid. They're super, super helpful. So I'm going to go with A tier for Beast Lords. They do have the Paragon. They've got slow. When it comes to grouping, they're probably S tier when it comes to grouping. But when I take everything into account, I'm gonna pop them into A tier. Berserker. Berserker is pure DPS. I think, honestly, I think they're replaceable DPS. They are high quality DPS and pretty, from what I've seen, they're pretty easy DPS. I don't know exactly how many clicks they need to be good, but from what I've seen, they're pretty easy to kind of get a good chunk of DPS out of. But they are, like I said, replaceable, and they don't really offer a ton of versatility outside of their DPS. I know that they do have I believe they have a snare ability. So yeah, I'm gonna put them into B tier. All right, next one up, we've got the Cleric. And Cleric has a soft spot in my heart. They are, in my opinion, and they're not even in my opinion. I think it's pretty clear that they're the best healer, at least in this expansion. Their heals are just bonkers good. I get complete heal numbers, if not better, from my ancient heal, and they're make or break for a raid. You need them, and you need good ones. So they're going S tier. I'm even going to put them in front of the Bard because I think that they're the key component to a raid. All right. Next up, we've got Druids. And I don't know if this is going to be a tough one because I think Druids are probably going to dislike what I have to say about this, but Druids are not... I don't know. I'm not going to say that they're not great. I played a Druid for a long time on other servers. I see their versatility. I see their abilities. To me, they're secondary in everything. Like, they're secondary for healing. They're secondary for buffing. They're good when it comes to, I guess, curing. They've got some dots, but generally I think they're replaceable. I think you can get better out of a shaman or a cleric, so I am going to put these druid. This is going to be tough, but I'm going to put them in D tier for now. We'll see if I change my mind later, but for now, that's going to be my first D tier. Enchanters. Enchanter is, I think their buffs are necessary for a raid. Outside of their buffs, they're really secondary unless the raid requires a charm mob. If it requires a charm mob, then obviously they're S tier. They're making or breaking that raid. But it's not necessary. There's only one raid I can think of that it's a necessary component. Others, it's just making it easier. And as much as I love the Enchanter, I've played an Enchanter. It was part of my original trio. But when it comes to how good they are, how well they level with a group, how well they contribute, I'm going to put them down to C tier, because they can oftentimes just become a buff bot. A great buff bot, but a buff bot nonetheless. Next up, we're going to go with Mage, the Magician. Magician has a nice little toolbox. They and the Shaman both can mallow the boss to reduce its resistances. So those are pretty important. Because you can do it with either class, I think that kind of reduces them a little bit. But what they offer to a raid is pretty helpful. The modulation rods are really helpful. The pet toys, the pet weapons are really helpful. So I think I'm going to keep them a little bit higher on the list. They offer good DPS, so I would put them at B, but I'm going to put them at A because they do have a little bit more in their tool chest. This brings us to the Monk. And I don't have much good to say about the Monk. I never really got into it. I've seen them in action. I'm not overly impressed by them, so I have to put them in D tier. They're replaceable DPS right now. They're replaceable for pulling right now. There are a lot of management, I think, to get DPS out. There's a lot of clicks required to actually get them rolling. Yeah, I have to put them in D tier right now. They don't offer too much to a group. They don't offer too much to a raid that can't be replaced. So, next up we got the Necromancer. The Necromancer is really helpful in a raid. Their DPS is really good in a raid setting. Grouping, it's a little bit tougher. They are bound by their damage over time spells, so I think that gives them a little bit of a draw for larger hit point targets as opposed to group targets. But when they get to, they are really good in a group as well. They offer a lot. Their pets are really powerful. Their spells are really powerful. I'm going to put them in A tier along with the Magician, above the Berserker. Next, we've got the Paladin. Paladin is a great tank. They don't do a lot of DPS unless it's undead, in which case they do insane DPS, especially at later levels. They have a little bit of healing. They're slow, and they're a bit replaceable. You can proceed without a Paladin. Yeah, I think I'm going to put them in B tier along with the Berserker. Probably the lesser of the tank classes. Brings us up to Rangers. Rangers, again, as much as I love the Ranger, they just don't offer a lot that can't be replaced by something with more versatility or more skill sets that are helpful in larger settings. There's a couple fights that are dependent on Rangers, but they don't really need a ton of work. they're they're easy DPS. They're very easy DPS. So instead of putting them in D tier, I'm going to put them in C tier, just because you can set them and forget them a little bit easier than these two classes when it comes to grouping, leveling, rating, all of those things. Next up, we've got the Rogue. Rogue is great set and forget DPS. So it lines right up with the Berserker, in my opinion, above the Monk and the Ranger, above the Mage and the Necromancer when it comes to DPS, I think, especially, setting and forgetting. AFK damage is really easy on the Rogue. You can set up macros and make it super simple. I am going to, and they have their Shroud of Stealth is really, really helpful. Can get things done quickly. Corpse runs really done really quickly in dangerous places, so it's really helpful for raids to recover. It's helpful for groups to recover. So I'm going to put them at the top of A tier, because I think that they're just a snag below S tier, but I think that they outclass these other classes for sure. So next up is the Shadow Knight. Shadow Knight is a very powerful tank. Right now in the expansion for Dragons of Norrath, they have an area effect taunt that kind of sets them apart from the other tanks when it comes to trash and leveling. So they are a bit above the Paladin, so I'm going to put them in A tier, right below the Rogue. I think they're second tier tank and decent DPS. They've got a pet that's pretty decent in in the later levels. Yeah, I think that they fit well in A tier. Next up is the Shaman. The Shaman is subpar healer right now, at least in my opinion. They can get by. You can get by with a Shaman or a Druid in your group, especially a Shaman, I'd say, because the Shaman also adds in a slow, which makes the healing less intensive. So they're definitely going above the Druid. I think they're more versatile than a Druid. They offer more to a raid than Rangers and Enchanters. They're more active. I am going to put them above Berserker and Paladin, as I think that they're a little bit more versatile than those two classes. They offer a little bit more to a group and a raid. Next up is Warrior, and the Warrior, that's S tier, top of the line. You can't do anything without a Warrior when it comes to a raid. When it comes to grouping, they're really helpful. They hold aggro really well. They're very easy to set and forget aggro pullers, so you can concentrate on your other characters, whether that's a healer, a slower, DPS, whatever it is. They make it a little bit easier to kind of let the mob hit them, and you can figure out everything else. They can tank the best of the bosses. They have really, really good combat abilities, and yeah, I mean, not enough can be said. A warrior and a cleric together, you're golden. Warrior, cleric, and bard. I feel like you can do anything with that trio, but mix it up. I would say mix it up between all these classes. Even though they're D tier, I would use some of these just to see how you like them. And then we're going to finalize this. The Wizard is the last class. I'm going to put them at the end of C tier. They can do a lot of damage. They pull aggro sometimes because of it. That's unfortunate, because it makes them a really easy glass cannon to take down. Once the boss moves on to them, they're down in a hit or two. So they put out good damage, but if they're not careful, they can't put it out for long. So that's where we stand on our tiers for classes on Wayfarer's Haven in the Dragons of Norrath expansion. Please like this video. Please comment below where you think I've gone drastically awry. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of problems with my list. It is my opinion, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of opinions out there that differ from mine. But this is a good way to get started. Kind of feel out what you want to play, and pick a trio that you like, pick a solo that you like, pick a duo that you like. Whatever you want to play, play it, because there's a place for you. So give it a try. Thanks for watching.